Hi, welcome. This episode is going to be just an introduction to decision making and how we can use visualization to help us make decisions, to help inform decisions and decision making processes. So how do we make decisions? This has been studied really in great detail by cognitive psychologists over many years and is a field that we could do well to understand in producing visualizations and understanding data. One approach is to consider decision making using signal detection theory. And signal detection theory frames a problem in decision making as something where you're trying to detect a signal in a very noisy environment. So here's a very simple example. We have a task question, which is a target. Here it's a diamond present in either of these two visualizations. There's then the visualization, which forms the sensory evidence for whether or not that target's present. And that's perceived and thought about by your mind, which then comes to a decision about the target being present, yes or not, no, and generates a categorical answer for you on which you can either use as knowledge or take action from. Typically what we'll do is measure the accuracy of your response and your response time. So how many times you get the answer right and how quickly do you make that answer. And the more difficult the problem, the noisier the environment and the fainter or more difficult the signal is to understand, the lower the accuracy gets and the longer the response time. So Golden Stocker, who produced a really good review on this called Visual Decision Making in an Uncertain and Dynamic World, summarized the problem like this. They say that the temporal aspect is very important. The right decision that you make today might be the wrong decision tomorrow, and that the world that you're in, your expectations, the contingencies, the context around a problem, and your goals will evolve and change when you come to approach a decision. So decisions don't occur in some isolation in time independently of everything else, but are tightly embedded in the streams of temporal dependencies. And that brings about, of course, all sorts of philosophical questions about what it is that forms a decision for you. But even in relatively straightforward decisions like the target detection on the last page, you've got to take into account not just the instantaneous sensory input, but also the past experiences, your future goals and expectations, and training and learning is part of that. You can learn to do some of these tasks better. So here's a more technical diagram which tries to illustrate how what you perceive as an instant in time when you make a decision is in fact an interval in time. And that interval in time might be tens of milliseconds, it might be several seconds, but it takes you time to detect and come to a decision on whether a target is present or not. So quicker decisions tend to be less accurate. It's harder to distinguish the signal in them. And that leads us to a conclusion for visualization, which is that whatever else we do in visualizations, at key decision points, we need to make the image static for long enough to achieve a good accuracy in decision making. So while there's a lot of emphasis in interaction, in interfaces, and while there's some emphasis in films on moving information past you in time, in fact, for you to make a good decision, you really want the evidence to be available for long enough for you to see it and understand it accurately. Okay, so that's the end of this short introduction, and we'll go on and look at a proposal for a way to help people make decisions and lay out information for that purpose. And also we'll look at what is a good visualization in itself. How do we decide what's a good visualization when we're looking at one? Thanks for now.